All right. Well, good afternoon, everybody, on this beautiful December day. I decided to be outside for a little break as we introduce this phenomenal topic on caregiving and taking a deeper dive beyond just the tasks that we do, but understanding ourselves and the people we care for, whether we're being cared for or we're caring for someone or a mixture of both. This is going to be a great presentation. I'm so looking forward to learning. I am also a caregiver, and I think I'm going to learn a bunch of new skills. So with that, I'm going to introduce Susan Edgman Levitan. She is the director of the Stokel Center for Primary Care Innovations, and she's going to facilitate the session today. And again, thank you very much to our special guests from Archangels.
Thank you, Dr. Russell. And welcome everyone. I think this is such an important topic and such a timely topic at this time of year when we are all doing caregiving in some fashion and receiving care from all of our friends and family. So I agree with Dr. Russell that we're going to learn a lot today. So before we get started, I just want to share some of the housekeeping information. If you want to just see the speaker, you can go up to the top right-hand corner of your screen and click on View, and you can click on Speaker, or you can click on Gallery, and that will show the speaker and everyone who's on the call. If your picture gets jumpy or out of sync, you're having a little bit of trouble with your connectivity. And if you go down to the lower left-hand corner and click on the video camera, it'll turn your camera off, but that will increase your internet bandwidth, so your picture will get better. The other thing I just want to remind people is that everyone is muted so that we don't have any background noise except from the speakers that are talking. And that also allows us to record this and put it on our Mass General YouTube channel because if everyone could speak, they'd be on screen and we can never show pictures of our patients. So that's why everyone is muted. And it also helps us avoid any unnecessary background noise. And finally, I just want to mention that if you put things in the chat, and we love for you to put things in the chat, questions, comments, resources, anything, please do not put any personal medical information because whatever you put in the chat, everyone on this call can see. So with that, I am going to introduce our fantastic speaker today, who is an incredible speaker, force of nature, and leader in this realm, and a good friend, Alexandra Drane. And Alex has one of the more interesting bios that I've seen in a while. Usually in academia, they're pretty dry. So Alex is the co-founder and CEO of Archangels that we're going to hear a lot more about today, which is a woman-owned omni-channel platform supporting caregivers nationwide. She previously co-founded Rebel Health, Eliza Corporation, and Engage with Grace. She serves on multiple boards and advisory groups, including the Joint Commission's Resource Board, which is the organization that accredits all of our hospitals. She is on the RAND Social and Economic Policy and Advisory Board, a national research organization, and more. She also is the vice chair of the Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center Board. Outside of healthcare, she enjoys car racing, fiercely loving on family, friends, neighbors, and sometimes even strangers. I can attest to that. And living into the belief that the adventure begins when it all goes wrong. So with that, we're just going to start, and Alex and I are just going to have a conversation. So the first thing I want to ask is, tell us about Archangels.
I will. I have to say, Susan, what I wanted to write in the chat right away was, I love you, Susan. Thank you for letting me do this. I love the Mass General community. I actually had major brain surgery at Mass General about 8.5 years ago, so I'm a huge fan across the system. So the notion behind Archangels in that bio, which is so funny. I mean, we should really just all of my bio should just say Alex Drane is a mess, but she's doing her best to keep it together on a daily basis. I think the thing that matters to us the most about what Archangels is doing is most embodied sort of in the name, right? It's the idea that we're supporting the over 40% of adults who are caring for family, friends, and neighbors. And it is a beautiful, beautiful job. It is intense. And I love the aspirational visual of an archangel, right? These folks are spreading their wings out over the people that they're caring for. And I think most of us would agree the single most foundational element of humanity is to care for others and to be cared for ourselves. And I think that notion, Susan, I know you're a caregiver. I know you also in your life have received care. And often those things can be happening at the same time. We're providing
Mhm.
care while we're receiving care. And it's this whole beautiful series of interlocking circles. So, archangels, all we think about all day, every day, is how do we love fiercely on this population? How do we help get them supported? How do we help make sure that they realize they're in this role? Because most of us in this role are not self-focused. We're only focused on the things that we're doing for others. And then how do we get them matched to resources that can help? And sometimes that resource is just a resource, even if we just start with, I see you in this role. What you're doing is amazing. And it can be to things like helping someone match to transportation or respite or navigation support or all the many other resources that exist in the state of Massachusetts, but also more broadly.
Alex, you mentioned that 40% of our population are caring for someone else, including themselves. Can you say a little bit more about what the landscape of caregiving looks like?
Yeah. I'll give you a couple thoughts on it. I think in the olden days, our perspective of unpaid caregiving was really at first just limited to you're caring for a baby. And then we realized over time, wait a minute, you might also be caring for an elder. My dad has moderate to severe cognitive impairment. My mom has blood cancer. Um, I have other relationships in my family that include other things for which care is happening. I also have a lot of things that I've dealt with from a health perspective. And so it's this idea that unpaid caregiving is happening at all ages, in all stages, across every demographic. It doesn't matter how much money you have or where you live or who you're caring for or what condition you're caring for. Being an unpaid caregiver is reasonably universal. And it has an impact. So when we are in this role, we go into it bringing our best selves, and it does have an impact. It can have an impact physically, it can have an impact on our mental health. Over 70% of us who are in this role have at least one mental health impact: anxiety, depression, stress. We can even have suicidal ideation. And it's because we care so much. It's because we're putting our all into it. But again, that does have a physical manifestation. So I think one of the most important things about caregiving, if you have a vision in your head of who you think a caregiver is, which is typically what people think, is they think it's me, right? I'm 54 years old and they think I'm caring for my mom. And in this case, actually, my mom, although she's having this health adventure, she cares for me just as much as I care for her. And so the vision we have of who's caring for who does not always match who this unpaid caregiver is and what they might be helping people care
Can you
for.
say a little bit about the gender breakdown of caregivers?
Yes, thank you. I love that one. And this is one that gets people a little salty sometimes, and why I love having the data. So when again people think of caregiving as primarily being women, and actually the data shows between 40 to 50% of men are also in this role. Now, the tasks that they're doing may be very different. The amount of effort that's going into it could be very different. But the reality is men are in this role. And what's interesting, I was just giving a talk to a room full of primarily men. And you could feel two things in the audience when that stat came up. One, the women like, not in my house. There's no man caregiving in my house. And the men were like, I don't see myself in that role. Then we started to give some examples. Caregiving for let's use traditional roles, which I am caveat. A man might be the one paying the bills, might be the one coordinating care, doing navigation, making sure that a house is fit for somebody who's, just getting loose from the hospital or has some other physical limitation. After this presentation, everyone comes up and talks to people. And most of the guys came up to me and said, "Oh my gosh, I had never thought of myself in this role. And actually, while you were saying that on stage, my mom called me for the third time. I couldn't pick up. And I realized, oh, it's because she needs a ride to the doctor's office. So I texted my sister. That's caregiving." Another gentleman said, "I was literally paying the bills for my mom." When you said, for example, it could be paying bills. So now, does that mean, women aren't doing more of the work typically? The data shows women on average are doing more of the work, but the reality is men are too. And the other thing, Susan, you and I talk about these demographics every day. 10,000 of us are turning 65 every single day. And, caring for somebody, even with all this love, it's logistical effort. It might be transportation, it's hands-on care, it's picking up medication, it's being on the phone to get something chased down. And as the percent of us who are needing this kind of care is growing, getting higher, this work will get spread around more and more because it has to.
Okay, thank you. I want to move to a couple of other topics, and they're related. You've already mentioned the intensity of caregiving and how it's rewarding and it's also stressful. Can you say a little bit about the impact and the stress impact? And then can you say a little bit more about some of the things that we as caregivers, and I kind of believe we're all caregivers in different ways. I've been recovering from surgery and getting help and on the phone with other friends or family, supporting them with whatever they're going through, and they don't even know I've had surgery. So we all do this in different
Yes.
ways. But if you could say a little bit about what are some of the things that we maybe need to pay special attention to during the holidays?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, yes, I love that. And Susan, interrupt me because I'll get so excited about all these. So
Okay.
you used the word intensity. I'm very grateful that you did because often people use the word burden, and that word makes me crazy. When I had my brain surgery, I certainly wouldn't have wanted my man to think of me as a burden, or my kids to be thinking of me as a burden, or my mom, dad, my bonus dad as well. The reality is caring for somebody can be intense. And the reason we like the word intense is it because it has all the emotions in it, right? Intensity of love, intensity of exhaustion, intensity of effort, intensity of joy, fear, wonder, worry, right? It has all of it at the same time. So when we talk about intensity, we put people in the clear, in the yellow, or in the red. And if you're in the red, you're in the red, right? When we're in the red, 90% of us will have some mental health impact. It will impact our ability to show up in the ways that we want to be showing up. Before COVID, about 8% of the nation was in the red. When we were going through COVID, it tripled to 24%, right? Close to 1 in 4 of us were in the red, which is amazing when you think being an unpaid caregiver really has that mental health impact. When COVID began to lessen, or whatever term people want to use, I think there was an expectation that the impact on caregiving would begin to come back down to that 8% number. Not only has it not come back down, it's hovered between 24 and 32% on average. And just think of that as a baseline metric. The other thing I'll say is it also varies by the type of caregiving you're doing or the type of stage you're in. So if you are a double duty, so anyone who's listening right now who is, let's say you're a doctor or a nurse or a tech, or you work on the front line in some way, that's called paid caregiving. A teacher, a postman, right? These are paid caregivers. The type of person who goes into a service job is often disproportionately the type of person who's providing all the care everywhere else. So whenever we give a presentation to a room full of, you know, paid caregivers, we'll always say, how many of you have already answered at least one email, one text, one phone call from somebody outside your day job saying, "Oh my gosh, my dad just fell. Oh no, my daughter just got diagnosed. Can you help me?" I know, Susan, today you've already gotten at least 2 or 3 of those. I guarantee it, right? You're everyone else's person too. So if you're in that role, you're disproportionately the one who's doing that outside. It can also change by the condition you're caring for, the life stage. When we as women go through perimenopause, that can actually increase intensity. There's a lot of other stuff going on. Plus, we're likely to be that sandwich generation carrying across the board. And then we can look at things like the holidays. And the holidays absolutely increase intensity. And we should stick on that for a second. But first, I want to make one other point because I think, Susan, you had a great example of this one. The most beautiful thing about care is it's typically not one direction. So, for example, I am caring for my dad. I can tell you, my dad also provides enormous care for me, in addition to my children, who are 18 and 20. And Susan, you had an example you shared that I thought was beautiful about your grandmom. So share that with us.
Oh, goodness. Well, it was actually my great grandmother, and I grew up in Tennessee, and she actually lived to be 100. But from the time I think she must have been in her late 50s, um, she was blind because she had cataracts, and she had terrible osteoarthritis in her hips, and she couldn't walk. And none of those things would be a problem if she lived now. But she was basically confined to her bedroom and then could walk with a walker to the kitchen. And she lived with my grandparents, and I spent a lot of time there. And I spent a lot of time with her, supposedly taking care of her, where she's totally taking care of me. And the one thing I shared is that she loved pickled pig's feet. And if you're not familiar with those, they're not what I would call delicious, and they're not exactly appetizing. And whenever she would ask for the pickled pig's feet, everybody but me would quietly tiptoe out of the room, and I would be left there to keep talking so that she thought we were all still with her. But I was the only one that had to witness the pig feet crunching. So that was my reciprocal caregiving story as a child, which I absolutely loved, and I was incredibly close to her until she died, and I was in my mid 30s.
Yeah. We have conversations all the time in different cultures, right? The idea of care changes. And we had a beautiful conversation with a woman, grew up in a Puerto Rican household. And she said, when you're growing up in my household, until you're 4, life is good. The second you turn 4, you have a job. And that job is to care in whatever way you can for whoever you can. And as she was going up, in middle school, her job was to stop by her great grandparents' house, and they did not speak English, to go through the bills. By the time she was in high school, she was driving folks to medical appointments or doing whatever she could. This notion that we're all doing it in interlocking circles, I love. There's actually a term called outer circling, and I love it. It's such a pretty visual. So when my man was taking care of me after my brain surgery, I was the center of that care circle, right? I was kind of out of it for a while. It was 9.5 hour brain surgery. So my man, as an example, was my outer circle. His only job was to pour love and care into me. I can tell you that can get intense, right? It was scary. It was a lot of work. And sometimes he needed a break. He might need to blow off some steam. He might need to tell somebody how irritating his bride is because she doesn't follow directions. She's picky about what he's bringing her to eat. So he needed someone to outer circle him so that he could dump a little bit of energy back on them. And their only job, if they're outer circling my man, is to pour love into my man. Antonio, have you eaten anything lately? Can I drop groceries by? I'm going to go sit with Alex for a little bit so you can go for a walk outside. And then that person who just poured that love in might need to dump some of that exhaust off. All of us, if we think about it, no matter what condition we are in ourselves, are probably both in the center of someone's circle and at the same time outer circling other. And I think that's a beautiful thing about care. It really represents love at its finest, even when it can be intense. And I think the holidays are a perfect example of that because people are trying to navigate who's showing up where. There's all these family dynamics, who's responsible for what, old frustrations about why is it always at your house and I don't want to bring that anymore. And I'm not going to pick up so and so. And why are you paying for this? And I don't want to pay for that, begin to flare. And we actually have some data, caregivers do feel concerned about their mental health. It's also financially a lot of money during the holidays. And unpaid caregivers, on average, are already spending out of pocket between $8,000 and $100,000 a year. That is on average. And then you throw on inflation, and you throw on it's the holidays, and you throw on the family intensity. You throw on the fact that I think right now, in particular in our nation, there's a lot of uncertainty about what's getting paid for, what's not getting paid for. Is care available? Is it not? Is my doctor still there, or are they not there, right? Will I get this benefit? Will I not get this benefit? And so all these things keep adding to that intensity that's available that, I love if someone's in a place where they can think of the holidays as an absolute blast. Fantastic. For some people, it doesn't feel that way, and that's okay too.
Alex, I want to move us into some of the things that we talked about when we were planning this that I think are the really wonderful parts of caregiving. And that's about, can you say a little bit about how to be a good caregiver and how to be a good care recipient? Because in my experience, I'm probably a much better caregiver than care recipient.
Yeah.
I can get a little cranky in particular. So can you just say a little bit about that?
Yeah. I think there's so many things that go into that. Um, a faith-based leader we were working with taught me the term I receive it, right? It's can be, especially if you're a very independent person, hard to have someone care for you. And sometimes the greatest gift you can give the people who love you is to accept the help, because actually accepting it is not only a gift to the person who's giving it to you, it also saves them effort. It saves them the emotional, need to convince you to accept that help. And it can also be a reminder, to just say you're grateful for it. I would also say, I think one of our jobs, one of the opportunities we have as humans is to watch how these dynamics unfold. Unpaid caregivers are very unlikely to ask for help. And most humans don't want to feel as though they need help. So given those things are often true, what can we do to sort of become a buffer in that? Well, one thing is if you as a human have some extra capacity, pay attention wherever you are to who's someone you know who's in that unpaid caregiver role. And go insert yourself into their life. And we'll talk about how helping them get their intensity score can be that thing. But figure out, oh, Alex is caring for her dad. She's with him a lot. I'm going to go bring treats over and sit with Alex's dad, right? That's what I'm going to do. I'm not going to call Alex and say, how can I help? Because I know what Alex is going to say. I'm good. I got this, right? Most people, when you say, how can I help you? They're too overwhelmed to even answer how you can help. So just go insert yourself, fill a fridge, do a call, mow the lawn, snow, whatever it is. And then the other thing I would offer is when those things happen for you, do your best to say, as we discussed, I receive it, and then see where you can pay it forward for someone else.
Great. Thank you. Thank you. Can you say a little bit about some of the resources that you all have shared with us, about where people can get help, they can get information,
Yeah.
etc.?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. I was thinking when we were talking about that finances component, and it got me thinking to financial fraud and abuse. And, when whoever you are right now, especially as technology gets smarter and smarter and smarter, we all have a worry. I had a text this morning that came to me that was so real, but I figured out it was not real before I responded, but it was preying upon the fact that I'm naturally a caring person. And if I had clicked through, probably something not great would have happened. So one of the things that Archangels is madly in love with is how many resources do exist already to support someone who's in this role. If you are working, which many of ours are later and later and later into our lives, you guys are reading the same data that I am. We work because it gives us purpose. We work because we add value to the world, and we work because financially we might need to work. This can be into our 70s, 80s, you name it, 90s. And so your employer, if you are employed, your employer most likely has resources that can support you in the things that you're doing. Now, that doesn't mean it has to say, this is the place you click if you're a caregiver. Because number one, most people in this role have no idea they're in this role. they're not even sure what the term caregiver means. They're like, I'm not a caregiver, I'm just a son, I'm just a daughter, I'm just a God-fearing person, a neighbor, a person who cares, a person who helps. So, number one, we don't use traditional language. We say things like, are you the one doing it all for everyone else? Right? Can you go on vacation without worrying? There's other ways to find this population. Then we help them get their score, and then we're matching them to those things that that employer, as an example, has already paid for. What are examples of those things? Well, often employers are helping their employees. And again, employers do this because they love you, but also because they want you to stay working, right? They can help you with legal questions you have in the care that you're providing. They might be helping you navigate a complicated medical situation. So they might have navigators that they're working with. They might have access to elder care they can describe, childcare, transportation. They might have health and wellness apps that they can share with you. Whether you're working or not, you likely have health insurance of some kind. Your health insurance provider also has resources that can support you as you care for someone else.
Alex, I'm going to ask you a question before
Yeah.
I don't want to forget it.
Yeah.
I th I'm I'm trying to remember. I've actually done a webinar on this. CMS is now covering some sort of payment for family caregivers. Am I right? But I think your doctor has to write a prescription. Anyway, do you know what I'm talking
Yeah.
about?
There,
Yeah.
so
Can
there,
you?
there are a couple things. One of them is actually getting paid out through Medicaid. So you have to be in a state that accepts this part of Medicaid, and you can get paid dollars, a daily fee, essentially, for providing this care to someone in your family. Because it makes sense financially for everybody, right? If you're doing this, that's actually great. The state would rather pay you. And you guys can all imagine what you're getting paid as the unpaid caregiver is a lot less than you get paid if you were someone doing this formally, but it's still money that's coming in. So that is something that does exist in certain states. And the number of those states has been growing. I don't know exactly it is right now within the last year in the current administration because these things are changing quickly.
Is it
There's
in
an,
Massachusetts or New
I
Hampshire?
believe, I believe let me, I know Erin's on this call. Maybe Erin, you can figure that out and see if New Hampshire and Massachusetts are those states. There's also a different kind of payment structure that CMS has put in place in the
And
last year.
I just want to say quickly, because we got a question. CMS is the Center for Medicaid and Medicare, Medicaid, Medicare Beneficiary Services. So it's the federal agency that pays for Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah. So Medicare has in the last about 16 months created a new CPT code, which is basically just a billing code that now makes it possible for a doctor, a nurse, let's say a clinic, to identify an unpaid caregiver within the care infrastructure and to say, oh, hey, doctor, if you see an unpaid caregiver and you support that unpaid caregiver in the work that they're doing by helping them navigate, by getting them access to resources to support them or access to training, we'll pay you to do that. That is brand new. And you guys all know that's actually awesome because the system responds to what it can get paid for because it has to. So unpaid caregiving is becoming increasingly something that's getting paid for. Do I personally think it's getting paid enough? Absolutely not. But it's a start. And a start is much better than what we were before.
Yeah, yeah.
And which gets us to that third part, right? So your employer might have resources to help you, the health insurance, whoever your insurer is might. If nobody else does, the community or state does. It might not be perfect, but it'll be something. So in Massachusetts, we have the ASAPs. And if you go on our Archangel site, you can find them. In other states, they're called the Area Associations for Aging. And that is a front door that can really help people access support on any of these questions that we're talking about. How do I support my dad? And I have questions about his insurance. I have questions about how I can get transportation, and I have questions about how I can get home care. And all of those things, a good front door is the AAA, is the ASAPs here in Massachusetts.
Alex, one thing that we have talked about many times, and it's just something I think I'd like you to say a little bit more about, is say a little bit about the kinds of things when you are a person receiving care, about the kinds of conversations to have with your caregiver that make things go a little better and
Yeah.
maybe help avoid some conflict or miscommunications. Can you say a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Just advice? Yeah.
And I'd be curious what you would think about this too. Often we have not thought about what we would want if we were the recipients of care until it might even be too late to do that. So it's incredibly important to think proactively and pick a buddy you can do this with. Let's say you became incapacitated. After my brain surgery, I was completely incapacitated. My mom had a medical situation happen this summer. None of us, my mom is fit as a fiddle. None of us expected this to happen. And she was out of it for about 2 days. And although we had had a lot of conversations, the technical questions, we'd filled out forms about, DNRs and your plan for what you would want. Those are very different than real conversations about what would you want. And I'm going to start with the extreme situation, but then you can back it up to whatever level you want. So I wasn't sure what music my mom would want to listen to. I wasn't sure if my mom would want me to, well, let me be clear. I did know this with my mom, but I wouldn't have known it with someone else. I knew my mom wanted me in bed with her. I knew she wanted me to be stroking her body. For some people, that's equivalent of HE double hockey stick, right? They do not want, they want you in their bed. They love you, but they do not want that. And my idea of soothing music might be terrible for them. So my mom and I actually went to the Nutcracker last night. And in the middle of the Nutcracker, my mom leaned over, goes, put this on that playlist. So she wants on her playlist the Nutcracker. So take a moment for yourself and do the kindness to the people who love you. And then you give that kindness to them, like help them fill their stuff out. What music do you want? Touch or not touch? Do you want people to visit you or do you not? Right? You want to be very clear about in those extreme circumstances, what would feel peaceful to you? And share that because that's the greatest gift you can give to your loved ones. So they're not sitting there already so worried about you and then worried that they're not doing the right thing. And you can actually back that way up. This conversation can actually be a lot of fun because it's about legacy. It's about storytelling. It's about passing along what care looks like for us. And so, as early and often as you can be speaking with your beloved friends, family members, whatever groups you're part of, on what good care looks like to you, what it would be to give it, what it would be to get it, that is a conversation you cannot start early enough. Susan, how do you think about that?
Oh, I think it's just incredibly important. But I also know that until you're in a situation where you need help, you don't really understand what you're going to want or not want. And so you just have to be willing to talk about things in the moment.
Yeah. And there
I
are
mean, the
lots of
kind of
tools
help
that
you
can
need
help.
with bathing, the kinds of help you need with food, how independent do you want to be? What do you want to have happen in the middle of the night? I mean, there are just lots of things that you quickly learn you need to talk about them, but it's important to talk about them.
Yeah. I think that's a great example, the one around bathing. I knew I did not want my man, technically my husband, I like to call him a man. I knew I did not want my man to give me a shower. And one of the greatest gifts he ever gave me was a home care aide who came in and showered me. And that home care aide was so amazing because I was in the shower for the first time, which you guys know is like, if any of you guys had major surgery, right? You're like, oh my God, the shower. I've never been so happy. This is fantastic. Then I realized I didn't remember that the beautiful, beautiful woman who was helping me said, okay, time to wash your body. And I looked at her, I was like, I don't remember how to do that. And she said, and then I started to cry. And so without even waiting a second, she opened the shower door and got in the shower with me fully clothed. And she taught me how to do that part of it again. And so I think it's incredible. Think really hard about those most intimate moments and who do you want doing that for you? And, let them know, let the people know who can help you with that, know when they will have time to do it.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I think we're getting close to the next part of our program. I just want to check and see if there are any questions or anything that we have not addressed so far. I think a lot of the questions that came in before we have covered to a certain extent. Let's go ahead and move to the next thing we were going to do.
I think that's great. So, Susan, we're going to put you on the spot. I'm going to do a couple things. One, I'm going to share my screen. And here we go. Oops, hold on, hold please. What I'm going to have, we're going to ask all of you if you want right now to do something we called getting your score. We talked about this earlier. This is your intensity score. And anybody at any moment in any particular situation has an intensity level. And this can be a fun way to get a sense for where yours is. And then that actually, back to many of the things that you and I were talking about, Susan, when you are overwhelmed and don't know what would be helpful, getting your score will give you a list of things that might be helpful and match you to places that will have them. So it's kind of that interstitial glue that matches all that stuff together. So we will stick into the chat. I think, Erin, if you could stick into the chat the
It's there.
link. Or Monique, great. Monique already did that. Thank you. And then anyone who wants to instead use their QR code can do it that way. I'll give it another second. And then I will actually go ahead. It's fun to get your score. And Susan, while people are grabbing it, I'll share one of the reasons it's fun to get your score. A, because a lot of people will be surprised at their score. And B, it gives us a language that you can use with each other. And if you have a friend that you know is in this role, but they're not talking about it, you can help them get their score. You can get their score with them, as I'm about to do with my friend, Susan. All right, here we go. Susan, as we click into this, is there any background you want to give? Or maybe you can give the background as you're going through. All right, I'm going to click on what's your score.
Okay.
So are you caring for a relative or friend who's 18 years or older, remembering that any care counts?
Yes.
Are you caring for a child or a teenager under the age of 18, remembering any care counts?
Yes.
You should bring a picture up of that delicious, adorable thing later. The situation with the person or people I provide care for can be unpredictable or unstable.
Agree.
I never know what to expect in my caregiving situation, so it's hard to plan ahead.
Agree.
I have had to cut down on my own expenses because I help pay for the things for the person or people I care for.
Neutral.
Caregiving is a financial burden on me or my family.
Disagree.
You know, it's funny. I always answer those two. The first one is it's not, because my honey and I are both working. But in terms of the broader family, we have a situation happening with a family that's not super close, but we're financially responsible for them. And it's been an impact. Our
Yeah.
family has disagreements about people not doing enough to help.
Disagree.
I would strongly agree on that one. Our family
No,
has
that's been a blessing, I have
Yeah,
to say.
such a blessing, such a blessing. Our family
Yeah.
has disagreements about people not spending enough time with the person or people I'm providing care to.
Disagree.
I feel underprepared for most situations I encounter. And I think about, you have people in your life who maybe have had surgeries that affect their mobility. I encounter as a caregiver.
I think I've had so much caregiving experience. I disagree. And I have a clinical background, so um, disagree.
I have more to do as a caregiver than I can handle.
Oh boy. Agree.
I feel supported as a caregiver by friends, neighbors, or family.
Oh, agree.
I have someone I can turn to for support when things are difficult.
Strongly agree.
I'm confident in my ability to navigate the health insurance benefits of the
Oh,
person or people I'm caring for.
agree. And I have to say, whenever I'm in the midst of that, I'm always thinking, I don't know how anyone navigates our healthcare system.
Well, I have to
Here.
tell you, I just did a webinar. It's not out yet, but I can share the story because we did it live together. And it was with a woman who ran up until recently Mid-Atlantic for Kaiser, a health insurer. And on this one, she was strongly disagreeing, even though she does it when it was for her. She can do it for anyone else, right? We can do it for other people. When it's our own situation, it can be really hard. I know how to manage the financial situation of the person or people I'm caring for.
Mm, agree.
I feel that I'm doing a good thing being a caregiver.
Oh, strongly agree.
I've learned to effectively cope with a difficult situation of being a caregiver.
Um, Neutral.
I'm confident in my ability to handle most things that I have to do as a caregiver.
Agree. This is
Caregive,
interesting.
yep, caregiving has limited my ability to spend time doing the things I take pleasure in.
Agree.
I don't have as much personal freedom as I would like.
Agree.
I feel depressed.
Disagree.
I'm stressed out.
Um, Agree.
I'm always a strongly agree on that one. I'm like, my hair is falling out. I sometimes feel manipulated by the person or people I care for.
Disagree.
That's a good one. I resent what I have to do as a caregiver.
Disagree.
I will tell you, those two questions get a lot of people who are like, I had never thought about it, but I do feel that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're working full time for pay.
Yeah.
Have your responsibilities caused you to miss more work than normal?
Agree.
Caused you to be less productive at work?
Agree.
Do you get the flexibility you need to do your job?
Agree.
And does your employer provide support to help you in your job as a caregiver?
Disagree. Well, other than being flexible.
So, want me to say neutral?
Yeah.
Finish. Now I'm going to say no thanks. Just bring me to my score. Doing nothing probably feels like a break. We're guessing you could use one as we zenly wait. So you're 42. So you're in the yellow. You're on the front line. On the front line, caregivers wish they could be two or more places at once. And if you want, you could read, we call this your horoscope. You could read more about this. It's fun. I love reading this. Or you can just jump straight away to the resources that are available here in the state of Massachusetts and beyond for the work that you're doing. And this is resources that is available for anybody for free. Or you could scroll down. These are your top two drivers. So the things that are making stuff the hardest for you from a caregiving perspective is the impact it's having on work and you not having a lot of time for yourself. But you have a lot of buffers. These are the things that help your intensity go down. You do feel supported. You feel great with your family. But I'm just going to click through in general because anyone can pass this link along to anybody anywhere and they could
Yeah.
dig in for themselves. So, no time for you. Well, these are some areas like mass options, right? Or
Oh,
the
this is
arch,
fabulous.
isn't it great? National Respite Network.
Yes.
It'll point you to Alzheimer's Association. It can send you over to a lot of the places that are available. Maybe my issue is family disagreements. All right. It's going to help me dive right into whatever those are. But it could be, and we talked about the financial impact of being an unpaid caregiver. It could be that where this is showing up for somebody is actually in these things we call the social determinants, right? I really need to better understand financial assistance, or how do I get access to food? Okay, well, here's where Meals on Wheels are. Here's the emergency food assistance program. Well, I need to get food to my dad, but I also need help with my dad's transportation. Okay, here are other places that you can go. So it's basically cataloging for you in one place the things that someone who's in this role might need for themselves or for the person that they're caring for. Well, what if the person I'm caring for is in Texas and they're not here? All right, just connect right over here and it's going to let you look by state. So I'm going to click in and look in Texas for the things that would be available. In Texas, here's where the support for caregivers lives. And if you dive in, it's going to give you an opportunity to share that to get much more localized with your own zip code. Maybe you're caring for somebody who's a veteran, and this will allow you to click into all the resources that are available for someone in that situation. Or you just want to look across the entire country at where are the resources that would exist to help me in whatever it might be, Caring Bridge, Elder Care Locator, right? It's going to give you all these other places. So it's basically cataloged for somebody all in one place. But I think what's even more important than that is the ability to get your own score. Because getting your own
Yeah.
score helps you have that moment, and then you can give that gift to someone else, right? Get your score with someone else, help someone get their score. Then you've got shared language. Hey, Susan, I'm in the red right now. Can you help me? You're in the
Yeah.
yellow, right? So we need to keep you in the yellow, get you into the clear. And if you're in the clear, it's a great time to say to your buds, hey, Matt, I'm in the clear right now. What do you need me to do? Right? You start using
No,
that
if
language to
I'm in the
signal.
clear, I'm keeping that a secret.
I
I'm
love that too.
not going to be saying, Matt, what do you want me to do?
I love that.
I have a paper that needs editing.
Yes, you just read my mind.
Matt, she's in the yellow. She's in the yellow.
Actually, I have to say, I'm reassured. I thought my score would be higher,
Hmm.
but I also found the questions very insightful and they make you think.
They make you think.
So I encourage people to try it and share it. One question that we did get that I don't think we've covered, we've talked about around it a lot, but I think it might be helpful. Because actually, I think I've learned so much about this, and I thought I already knew a lot about it, is burnout.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit about the signs of burnout that all of us people that think we're so resilient and high performing and, never run out of energy may just totally miss and not understand?
Yeah.
And with ourselves and with our family members and
Yeah.
friends.
So, I mean, in going through those questions, you could see already those are some of those signs of burnout. So, feeling resentment, feeling overwhelmed, not feeling a sense of purpose. I'll give a great example. You could be somebody who loves your job. And the day that you begin to feel like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can do this job anymore, that's a huge sign of burnout. Because for a
Yeah.
lot of people, work is respite. It's where they go to
Yeah.
get some space. They need to make money. They have a sense of purpose. For others, it can show up in how they are with their family. So I'll give a personal example. When I am in the red, um, I will often take it out on the one person I don't feel responsible for. So I feel responsible for my kids. I feel responsible for what I'm doing at work. I feel responsible for anybody who's got anything health wise going on. And there's a couple things I do at night at the end of the day. First of all, we didn't talk about self medication. Unpaid caregivers self medicate. They do because it's one of the ways that they survive. So I self medicate with my drug of choice is Prosecco. We know that unpaid caregivers have increased their use of substances to cope by 5 times over those who are not in this role. We also cope with food. And that's okay, right? One of the things we talk about a lot is if you are self medicating with something that's not perfectly healthy, give yourself grace. You're doing your best, right? You're showing up in this beautiful way. Please don't beat yourself up over it. It can start showing up in your relationship. So it's nighttime. I spent all day caring and things aren't going perfectly. What do you think I do, Susan? I pour myself a glass of Prosecco. I might pour myself a second, and then I might march into the kitchen where my man is, and I might pick a fight because I'm cranky now and I need to blow off steam. And he's really the only safe place I can do that in. And he learned about 2 years ago to say to me, babe, you're not mad at me. You're just in the red. And the first time that happened, I was like, oh, no, 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 I am mad at you. And then I was like, he's kind of right. And so I think in households or in interlocking circles of any kind, we can see burnout in others often before they can see it in themselves. And we can sort of say, I think you got a lot on right now. It's beautiful what you're doing. I'm going to go ahead and take this piece over for you. Know that someone else is in the red. And often burnout shows up in all of those different things that we saw in
Yeah.
those questions.
Yeah. I know when I'm on the edge when I'm trying to do way too much and I go to get the mustard and we're out of mustard and I become homicidal. And I know, uh-oh,
Yeah.
I've been here before, you
Yeah.
know.
Well, and one of the
So,
things I think it's important to do when you see someone in that they're in the red, they're experiencing burnout, sometimes what we feel called to do is to say, oh, you know what you should do? People have done this to me. Alex, you should meditate. You should go for a long walk. Why don't you go do a yoga class? And I'm like, did you miss the memo that said, I can't meditate right now? I don't have time to go for a walk and I don't have time to go do yoga. Yeah. Right? Like just being sensitive to what we offer to somebody when you can tell they're in that space, be sensitive to the reality of their lives and try and sidle up next to them in that reality and support them in that reality.
yeah,
This is echoing a lot of what was said and taught in palliative care for providers. Um, you know, it is, I'm also a palliative care doctor in addition to being a geriatrician. And, um, we often have to sit and be present with people at the worst moment in their life. And our presence might be imperfect, but our decision is to stay and remain and be with. And I think there's a very big analog with that in the caregiving role, that for any of us, it's important to take our temperatures to understand, am I bringing my stuff to this situation? What can I do? But also that deep-seated compassion, self-compassion that's necessary so you're able to pick up the work tomorrow. And calling out the reality that this is really hard. This is really challenging. This is not Pollyanna fabulous. But I just see those skills are very, very analogous.
Yeah, you really are. It's absolutely right. I often will say, one of the greatest gifts you can give somebody is a palliative care consult because palliative care teams are the ones that see you in your entirety and can help figure out for you what will a good day feel like, what will getting through this knee surgery or diagnosis or place that you are in your life mean for you, and how can they also palliative care also thinks about that outer circle, who's your daughter, who's your partner, who's your neighbor, who's showing up with you, and how can we make sure they're supported too.
I'm going to just ask everybody on the call if there are any other questions. I think we've actually covered a lot of the questions that came in before the call, but are there any other questions or topics that people would like to ask about or bring up or share?
You know, Susan, one of the ones that we had talked about, oh, was there one?
Not yet, but go ahead.
We had talked about, what's the best way to ask for help? Who do I ask? And what are you asking for? And again, that is what getting your score is designed to do. And then you basically can translate that. So, you know, two things. One, if you are asking for help, if you can receive the request for help and respond to it, be as specific as possible. Could you go get my groceries every Tuesday? Try and lock in a commitment. I have a neighbor that I go sit with her in the winter when her family is not as around. I like to go sit with her every weekend, and I will lock in that commitment so that they know that I'm going to do that. And I love it because she's freaking genius. I think this was a point made. You can also think of help in categories. Like there's practical help, like meals, rides, errands, and certain people are really good at those. There's emotional, listening, being your red phone. There's administrative, like forms, calls, scheduling. Power of attorney. It's an incredibly important one. Guys, everybody think about this power of attorney thing because it is exhausting if you don't have this in place. And even if you have it in place, knowing how to remind a bank, I am the power of attorney. Do not ask me to do that again is key. Thank you,
Yeah, I'm
Alex.
going to stop you because we just got a question about power of attorney and Social Security and Medicare, and it is a nightmare. Um, and they're asking about how best to be a power of attorney in dealing. I mean, the only way we sorted our way through it was to get a really good family law person who understands all the ins and outs and what you need to do and how you get access to things like Social Security and Medicare. I don't know if you have any other advice about that, but that question just came in.
Yeah. So if you are currently with an employer, go to the benefits team, the HR team, and say, I have a question about how do I become power of attorney in this state with whatever I'm dealing with. If you're not, you can go in the state of Massachusetts to the ASAPs. They're often experts in how do you get legal questions answered about power of attorney. And the last thing I'll add to what Susan, I think you answered most of it, is just once you have power of attorney secured, know that the system is not necessarily going to respect that. They're going to push back on you, and you need to know your rights as someone who has power of attorney, because it's much easier for folks to ignore you and say, oh, get it again or do it this way. And you actually have rights that you can say, no, I am my father's power of attorney and I am going to sign it that way. And that's that. And you cannot talk to my dad on the phone because I am his power of attorney. So it's really key to sort of take those steps and get help to
Yeah.
get them accomplished.
Can you put the ASAP, ASAP, whatever that, can you put that link in the chat?
Yeah. In
Um,
the Archangels, we'll put in mass options. In Massachusetts, it's called mass options. And you call mass options, and then they're going to push you out to the ASAP in your zip code because they're going to
okay.
be best equipped to support you. But Aaron, maybe you could stick the mass
Yeah.
options number in. Perfect.
Okay. Yeah. The person who asked about power of attorney wrote in, no kidding. It's
Yeah.
challenging. Yeah.
It puts
So
me in the
Matt,
red just thinking about it.
I know, me too. Matt, I'm going to give you the last 2 minutes. I just want to wish everyone a wonderful holiday season. Don't try to be perfect. That's been my mantra every minute of every hour for the last month. But have a wonderful time, and I hope you get a lot of rest and laughs and relaxation with the people you love the most. So, Matt.
I want to thank Alex and Susan for this wonderful demonstration. I think and Erin, obviously, it's been great to get insight into this and also give a metric for people to get their head around this, because this is actually measurable in a lot of ways. And being aware of a problem, it sounds like I'm speaking psychobabble speak, but it's not. When you're aware of a problem, then you can get into the solutions. And it's been such a wonderful gift to receive in this presentation. I am also a caregiver, and my score was 49, so slightly, still in the yellow, but not quite in the red, thank God. But I feel a little bit more empowered now, and not just as an individual caregiver, but also as a care provider for my patients. And I think this is a wonderful resource. So just as we are getting close to the holidays, we're in the holidays actually. I want to wish everyone a delightful holiday season. Make sure you're vaccinated with the flu, the COVID, and the RSV. RSV is once in a lifetime. Flu vaccine, while the current strain is not in this year's vaccine, there is enough cross matching that there is a reduction in hospitals and illness and all that kind of stuff. So please do that. Enjoy your holidays. Enjoy your holidays with the people you care for and the people that are caring for you. Because as much as they can be stressful times, they can often be really wonderful, quiet moments of delight in one another. And they're the memories we're all going to cherish. So best wishes, happy holiday season, and see you in the new year for our next town hall.
And Matt, as part of Outer Circling, I'm going to be sending you some recipes.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Yes. Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.